Hello, this is Mrs. Ross, and these are Module C, Unit 3, Lesson 1 notes. Highly suggest you pause and write down what you need to write down. Keep in mind that everything that is a quick check, like this, is going to be on your quiz, and everything that's not a quick check is going to be on your next test. So you're going to want to make sure that you get everything down just as I say it, all right? If you've already done your notes, you may want to check them. I would check them if I were you to make sure you have everything that you need. So, first thing, examples of ecosystems are forests, salt marshes, deserts, and lakes are all examples of ecosystems. So get those down: forests, salt marshes, deserts, and lakes. And then the definition of ecosystem: an ecosystem is a system made up of all the living and non-living things in a given area. An ecosystem is a system made up of all the living and non-living things in a given area. Okay. Need to pause, you can. What is one way to evaluate the health of an ecosystem? And that's on 133. So I believe we're on 132. Look at that little guy. And I think this is 133. One way to evaluate the health of an ecosystem is to consider its biodiversity. So what I would write is consider its biodiversity. Okay. And definition of biodiversity is the variety of life in Earth's land, freshwater, and marine ecosystems. The variety of life in Earth's land, freshwater, and marine ecosystems. When does high biodiversity exist? Okay, let's look and see what it tells us. High biodiversity exists when there are many species and individuals of those species living in an ecosystem. High biodiversity exists when there are many species and individuals of those species living in an ecosystem. When does low biodiversity exist? Low biodiversity exists when there is a low number of species in an ecosystem. Okay, let's see. How is biodiversity described? And there are three ways. The biodiversity of an area can be described as the combination of genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecosystem diversity. Those are the three ways: genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecosystem diversity. So let's figure out what those three things are. Let's find the definition. Keep on keeping on here. So genetic diversity refers to the variation of genes within a species or population in a given area. That's what I would write down for the definition. Genetic diversity refers to the variation of genes within a species or population in a given area. And then if we continue, species diversity refers to both the number of different species that are in a given area as well as the number of individuals of each species that are there. So species diversity refers to both the number of different species that are in a given area as well as the number of individuals of each species that are there. So that would be the definition of species diversity. And then ecosystem diversity refers to the variety of ecosystems in a given area. So the variety of ecosystems in a given area. And then we come to our first quick check. It says wetlands are natural parts of watershed systems. Watersheds are where when it rains, it runs down through the watershed. Sometimes it goes under the water or under the land. Sometimes it goes into a lake. Wetlands provide many benefits. Which of these is a way that wetlands directly benefit humans? Let's see. And what I have is that it reduces flooding. Wetlands actually slow the water down, which is kind of cool. Okay, and then we have another quick check. Which of these characteristics is often used as a measure of an ecosystem's health? And that would be the variety of species is often used as a measure of the ecosystem's health. And then which ecosystem most likely has the greatest biological diversity? So a tank, a tundra, a pine tree, a rainforest. So we're going to go with the rainforest. And then we have some short answer, quick check questions. This says, describe an ecosystem that has a high biodiversity. So this has a large number of organisms and a variety of species. This is where it gets important that you're listening to the notes as well as watching them. because I don't know if you can read any of that because my handwriting is awful. So, and then the next quick check question we have here, it says, there is a relationship between biodiversity and living and non-living factors in an ecosystem. Give an example of one living and one non-living thing in an ecosystem. So this is actually one question with two parts. So if I go with the biotic, we've got trees, insects, birds, and then the abiotic or non-living, water, sunlight, soil. And explain what that factor is important, why that factor is important to ecosystem health. So the more living organisms, the more biodiversity. Okay, and this isn't going to fit, but the more abiotic resources, the more living things can be supported. Okay, factors that can affect biodiversity, 135. So let's go there. That's 133. That's 134. This, I think, is 135. So let's go here. A variety of factors, including location, climate, and resource availability, can affect an ecosystem's biodiversity. So here we would have location, climate, and resource availability. Let me scooch this over so I can see. And a biodiversity hotspot. Okay, let's get the definition of that. Certain regions of the earth have very high biodiversity compared to other regions. A biodiversity hotspot is a region that has high biodiversity and is threatened with possible destruction. So that's what you're going to put for your definition. A biodiversity hotspot is a region that has high biodiversity and is threatened with possible destruction. Let's go ahead and take a look at this quick check. The diagram shows an outline of Earth. The location marked on the map indicates the biodiversity hotspot. So the location is right there. What would scientists expect to find in this location? So they would expect this, an ecosystem with a large variety of plants and animals that is threatened, per the definition of biodiversity hotspot. So now we have ecosystem stability on 136. So this is 135. This is 136. Let's see, here's ecosystem stability. So let's see if we can figure out the definition. Factors stay more or less within a certain range in a mostly stable condition. That's ecosystem stability. Factors stay more or less within a certain range in a mostly stable condition. And then ecosystem disturbance. Let's see if we can find that. Here we go. An ecosystem disturbance is a change in environmental conditions that causes a change in an ecosystem. So some examples of natural ecosystem disturbances. Let's see. Natural disturbances include wildfires, storms, flooding, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. Examples of human disturbances include oil spills, fires, and clearing of land to harvest trees. So clear cutting. What determines how quickly an ecosystem recovers from a disturbance? How quickly an ecosystem recovers depends on the type and severity, how severe the disturbance is. Okay, so then we have a couple more quick check questions. Let's see, coral reefs are found in coastal ecosystems. Coral reefs have a high biodiversity. Which statement is true about coral reefs? And it's going to be this last one. There are many different species of plants and animals found on a coral reef. And then how does the biodiversity in an ecosystem relate to how quickly an ecosystem can recover from a disturbance? It's going to be the number of species increases the ability of an ecosystem to recover from a disturbance. Okay, so we're on page 138. Oops, because we answered that one. How does lowered biodiversity affect an ecosystem's ability to recover from a disturbance? Let's see if we can. That's 136. 137. Let's see. An ecosystem with lowered biodiversity is less able to recover from a disturbance. Some ecosystems, such as polar regions, can maintain stability while naturally having lower biodiversity than warmer. Ecosystems generally become less stable. That's why. Ecosystems generally become less stable when their biodiversity levels are lowered from their baseline levels. So that's how does lowered biodiversity affect an ecosystem's ability to recover from a disturbance? Ecosystems generally become less stable when their biodiversity levels are lowered. And then we have, this is actually just one quick check question. So let's scroll down. 138. So we have the definition of biodiversity. It is up here. Right there. So you'll write that down for this, and then it says, explain how high biodiversity can make an ecosystem stronger. So a more diverse ecosystem will be more likely to survive environmental changes, such as an introduction of invasive species, such as an introduction of invasive species. Again, I hope you're listening to this because I didn't write all the words down. So a more diverse ecosystem will be more likely to survive environmental changes such as the introduction of invasive species. And then we're to 139, benefits of a healthy ecosystem. So where are we as far as page numbers go? This is, I don't know, 138. So here's 139. Benefits of a healthy ecosystem. I don't see it there. Let's keep on going. Humans are part, that's lovely. Humans rely, why is biodiversity? I think it's in this one. Okay. Humans have blah, blah. Okay. Benefits of a healthy ecosystem. Humans have designed structures and developed processes that help them to survive in their environments. Ecosystems provide energy and raw materials that humans need to live and survive. So that would be one. Humans rely on ecosystems to grow. Why is high biodiversity? Okay, so I wonder. Humans rely on ecosystems to grow crops and raise livestock. Humans also depend on non-living parts of ecosystems for clean. Okay, so these are the three ways. Gosh, I wish I could annotate this, and I don't know. Would it let me annotate? Okay, great. Cancel. Let me see if it'll let me annotate now. So it says ecosystems 1. Oh, it did. Yay. Oh, maybe not. Okay, well, let's just forget that. So the energy and raw materials that humans need to live and survive, that's 1. Ecosystems provide the energy and raw materials that humans need to live and survive, that's 1. Humans rely on ecosystems to grow crops and raise livestock, 2. Humans rely on ecosystems to grow crops and raise livestock. That's 2. Number 3, humans depend on non-living parts of ecosystems for clean air, fresh water, and living space. Humans also depend on non-living parts of ecosystems for clean air, fresh water, and living space. Okay. Oops. So that's those 3. And then it says, why is high biodiversity in ecosystems important to humans? I'm thinking it's here, and there should be 5 parts. So we depend on healthy ecosystems for survival and good quality of life. For example, rely on ecosystems to reduce effects of droughts and floods, provide fertile soils, pollinate crops and plants, disperse seeds, and control. It's all right here. It's all in this one right here, all 5 of them. Humans rely on ecosystems to reduce the effects of droughts and floods, 1. Provide fertile soils, 2. Pollinate crops and plants, 3. Disperse seeds, 4. And control pests by natural predators, 5. It's all right there. And if you need to pause and go back, you can. We're going to go on to page 140. Causes negative effects to biodiversity. Humans' activities affect biodiversity. Let's see some of the negative effects. Causes direct negative effects and indirect negative effects. Let's see.